The funeral that never ends. The town was called Ainsley, a nowhere dot pressed between long-forgotten train tracks and a forest too dense for maps. It did not appear on GPS. You had to hear about it the way things used to travel before the internet, over cigarettes in dive bars, scribbled in the margins of old roadside brochures whispered in diners by the kind of people who didn't blink often enough. That was how Ethan discovered it. A strange little detour suggestion from a man sitting beside him on a greyhound, who smelled like cedar and engine grease and kept stroking the fabric of his pants like he was petting something alive. Ethan wasn't running from anything, but he wasn't exactly running toward anything either. He had taken a sabbatical from his job teaching cultural anthropology after a breakup that was less of a heartbreak and more of a dull, protracted sigh. He wanted quiet, solitude, something that didn't talk back or ask him what he wanted for dinner. Ainsley sounded like a curiosity, so he scribbled it down. 2 days later, he was standing on cracked pavement, suitcase in hand, looking at a town that didn't quite look old or new, but caught in some strange stasis, like a photograph left too long in the sun. The houses were modest, clean, and colorless. The streets had names but no signs. There was a town square with a clock tower that always read 4 to 44, no matter the hour. The people smiled too long, too still, and when they walked, it was in deliberate lines, like choreography. There were no dogs, no children, and no sound except for the occasional wind chime or the creak of porch swings that swayed without occupants. He checked into the only inn, a place called the Sparrow's Wing, run by a woman whose name tag read Dot, though her voice never quite matched her lips. She gave him a room key, warned him that the water ran cold after sundown, and added, almost as an afterthought, that the funeral was at noon the next day. Her smile didn't waver as she said it. Ethan, curious, asked who had died. She blinked slowly and said, "We never know them. But we still mourn." The next day, he followed the slow procession of townspeople through a small path behind the church, toward a white gazebo near the woods. A casket waited on a platform, polished, untouched, yet visibly old. The mourners were dressed in black, identical suits and dresses, and they cried in perfect intervals, dabbing at dry cheeks with lace kerchiefs. The priest gave a eulogy with no name, only a string of metaphors about rivers and wind and borrowed time. Ethan felt a cold twist in his gut as he scanned the faces and realized he was the only one who looked confused. Everyone else was performing, word for word, tear for tear. Like actors stuck in an endless play they no longer understood. He left before the casket was lowered, but not before catching a glimpse of something that froze his stomach. On a small table beside the podium sat a framed photo. It was of him, not smiling, not posed, a candid shot he didn't remember ever taking. His name was carved on a plaque beneath the frame. Ethan Cole, 1986 to 2024. The priest hadn't said it aloud, but it was there all the same. He stumbled back to the inn, breath shallow, mind racing. He confronted Dot, demanding to know if it was some kind of joke, some strange local ritual. But she only stared, smile still glued to her lips, and said, "It's not our choice, Mr. Cole. You were scheduled." Her voice cracked just slightly, as if something beneath it wanted out. He tried to leave that evening, packed his bags, started his car, but every road bent back into the town. No matter how far he drove, the gas gauge never moved. The scenery repeated like a glitch. He passed the same dead raccoon for times, the same bent mailbox, the same old man watering flowers that didn't exist. The town wouldn't let go. That night, he couldn't sleep. The television played static even when unplugged. His reflection didn't match his movements. Outside, beneath the gazebo, people gathered again. Midnight. A second funeral. Same casket. But no photo this time. Only a mirror resting on the stand. He watched them from his window, unable to look away. They weren't crying now. They were chanting. Low and rhythmic, like a prayer twisted inside out. The next morning, the town was empty. Not deserted, just emptied. Doors left ajar. Meals half eaten on tables. Clothes laid out on beds like the bodies had evaporated. He wandered in silence, calling for anyone, but his voice came back to him wrong, as if passed through water. The photo of him remained by the gazebo, now covered in black cloth. The casket was gone. Ethan stayed. Not by choice. He simply couldn't leave. Days passed, but the sun never shifted. Clocks remained frozen. Each noon, the townspeople reappeared, wearing the same black, marching in perfect silence to mourn someone new. He attended each one terrified and numb, until one day the photo changed again. A woman he once loved, then a friend he had forgotten, then his mother. He came to understand that the town did not mourn the dead. It prepared them. The funerals were warnings, previews, echoes of fates yet to unfold. And the mourners were not people, but echoes themselves, trapped memories of the moment just before morning. He was no longer sure he had a body. His hands were always cold now. His breath never fogged the window pane. He still walks Ainsley's streets, reciting names he no longer knows, waiting for his real death to arrive. But it never does. He has become part of the town, an actor in the grief machine, a face in the crowd, another mourner at the funeral that never ends.